Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review, and next up is the Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series Deluxe Star Wars Return of the Jedi BOBA FETT. Now this is the new Deluxe line, which they've had a couple of different releases, right? They had Jar Jar Binks from The Phantom Menace. They also had Zeb from Rebels, which, you know, he didn't come with a whole lot of accessories. And Boba, yeah, he comes with a fair amount of accessories, but I think that's the same amount of accessories that should come with a $20 figure. But these Star Wars Deluxe figures, I think, are overpriced at $30. Now, I understand that this Boba Fett is all new mold, all new sculpt. It is not the same figure that we got in the 40th anniversary line for The Empire Strikes Back, which would also include the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive that had a different card and everything like that. And then as well as the Archive Wave 1 Boba Fett, and then the several other releases of Boba Fett that have happened over the years. Now, in this video, as much as I would like to do a comparison, I just cannot get myself to open these two figures and take them out of the card. I just can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I was going to, but I don't think I could do it. I don't think I can. But the Deluxe, this one, we are going to get out of the package. So, looking at the side artwork there, very cool, of Boba Fett. You can see here, it is number 6 in the Return of the Jedi line. We have the image there of Boba Fett. The bio reads, Boba Fett, with his customized Mandalorian armor, deadly weaponry, and silent demeanor, Boba Fett was one of the most feared bounty hunters in the galaxy. Now, the Legacy, what is it called now that it's no longer canon? Is it the Legacy, Star Wars Legacy? All the backstories, comics, novels, all the tie-ins and all these different things that actually had Boba Fett being an amazing character. When you really look at it in the movies, in particular Return of the Jedi, he doesn't really do a whole lot. I never understood the appeal for Boba Fett outside of him looking pretty cool. He didn't really do anything of noteworthy. It's not like he really captured Han Solo. He was handed to him, and then he delivered him to Jabba. So he just didn't do anything, and he was clumsy as hell, right? He gets knocked off by a blind guy. He bumps into somebody and hits his jetpack. He goes flying and falls into the Sarlacc pit. He didn't do anything. But in The Mandalorian, when he made his appearance, he was badass. I'm like, this is the Boba Fett that everyone's talking about. This is what I like to see. It's awesome. So I am very happy to actually have this figure now. I would love a version from The Mandalorian itself. But new Boba Fett, 3 minutes in. Let's take it out of the box and get to it. I couldn't resist to do this real quick comparison. It's like, okay, so Boba Fett just keeps getting released so many times. Like, this version was released a number of times, almost 10 times, I think, and then we get this new one. And then even in the TVC, the Vintage Collection line, right, we get the old Boba Fett that has probably been released a bunch of times over the years and years and years. But then for Return of the Jedi, they're like, hey, you know what, why don't we just build it from the ground up, completely new, do everything different, change it all, and we get something new. So just like TVC did it, Black Series has done it. So now let's actually open the box and get to it. Okay, so here is the Boba Fett figure out of the package, and it's cool. I thought I would like it a little bit more than I do. Now I know it's a new mold, but there's still some things that seem kind of wonky on it. Like, if you're gonna revisit the figure in its entirety, everything should have been updated. Now, and it's probably just me being picky or whatever, and a lot of it's probably going to be in the design choice of the costume itself from the movie. Like, his weirdly shaped feet, it's just kind of odd. They're also kind of small. I think his pants, the light gray of his pants really give it almost a too clean look. I think a little bit of a darker gray would have been good. And I'm not even asking for a wash or anything like that. Darker color, I think, would have gone a long way. But the really awesome thing about this figure is the accessories, which are really, really, really cool. One thing that it stood out to me, and I'm thinking, well, what the hell is that? This is when he comes in flying onto, I don't know what the little things were called, right? But he comes in while Luke is doing his thing with his lightsaber, and Luke actually cuts his weapon in half with the lightsaber, so we get that. So that is actually pretty cool. It ports in together, but as you can see, it didn't really go in all the way. So it kind of does that, and then it has this yellowish paint that's added onto it. I'm not really sure why they did that other than the glow effect of the moment that it actually occurs, but it's not like they really highlighted that in the movie or anything. But that is actually really cool, and it's painted just like the regular one, which I will show you here pretty soon. But that is a really nice touch to include that, because I'm sure a lot of folks can do some really great things and get some really good video going on there. But zooming in, so taking a look at the weapon, you can see here, that looks really good. I really like the rust look to it, the dry brushing of that brown copper color on there. Came out looking really, really nice. But you want to be careful because, I mean, there's some thin plastic parts going on as part of this. So really, really be careful, especially when taking out the plastic. I got kind of worried that, you know, I would kind of bend something a little too much. Now, there's some flexibility in there, but I would definitely be careful because you can see it is pretty thin. Here we have the flamethrower effect that you can actually... I haven't exactly tried it out yet or anything, but it looks like you're going to be able to attach this to his arm, so that is really cool. If I can get that to focus in. There we go. That looks really good. The darker orange here, and then as we fade into the yellow, so it's going to port on in to his flamethrower right there on his left arm. So that is actually really, really cool. Really nice touch that they would include something like that, so you can do that. That is awesome. We also get these flame effects here. These will port into his jetpack. So same thing going on with the flame, orange into the yellow, which I really like. And speaking of the jetpack, here we go. Here on the jetpack, I don't remember the jetpack being these funky ass bright colors. I could be completely wrong, and it's not like I've watched the movie a million times. I've watched it quite a few times, but also don't ever really pay attention to the jetpack itself, I guess. So when I had first seen the pictures of this, I'm thinking, well, why does the jetpack look like that? So it's interesting. The sculpt of it is nice. The paint is amazing because they really put in the weathered look of like the silver that you see that's coming through on the blue here, over here, and then over here as well. That's all done really nicely. You know, they could have been all the solid color, but it's really nice that we really get this whole weathered look to it. So a little bit there, on top there as well. That is actually really cool. And you can see these flame effects are just going to port right on in to those exhaust ports. So Boba could, you know, take off and get into flight. And you can see it's going to port in 3 different spots on Boba's back. So we got the large port there, and then the 2 smaller ones. So we can get a good fit to where it's not going to be like twisting and turning on his back. This is actually kind of tricky, so I'm going to do that actually off camera. Oh, the rubber portion of his body, you got to kind of line that up. So I'll do that off camera, show you guys how it is. But that's the point of the 3 ports, so it's not going like this all over the figure, because that's kind of what the problem I was having with bo-katan. You know, it only ports in one spot. It's going to end up looking like this all the time, so that is pretty cool. We'll take a look there. Here we have this grapple hook, and that is done quite nicely there. Nice silver paint. We actually get an actual cord there, or string there, and it's just tied on, and then we have this brown portion here that's going to attach to his arm, and I'll show you guys that here in a second. But yeah, let's take a look at the Boba Fett figure. You know what, actually looking at it now, is they put a peg hole at the top of the jetpack where a rocket would be. So the other ones, the old design that were like the all green jetpack, actually gets the rocket that's part of the sculpt. It's not like it's removable or anything. All we get is a peg hole. So I don't know if there's some other accessory out there that could work. I'm sure there is. Nothing that was included here. But somebody might be able to put a rocket into there. So that'd be pretty cool. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take a look at the figure, the close-up, and see all the details, all the weathering pattern, and all of that. So it's really cool. So first of all, I'll talk about the jetpack, how I was going to put it on there. So no twisting and turning. It's going to stay on there nice and straight. So I do really like that. Again, you have to line up this rubber body, because this torso piece, all this piece here, it's a rubber piece on top of a harder plastic, so you have to line it up so you can actually port that in there. Now as far as the grappling hook, one thing that's really weird about this, and I'm not a fan, is you have this piece here, as you can see there, and it doesn't really clip onto the figure or anything, so you can kind of stick it on his arm and it's just going to float there, but it doesn't secure to anything, because the way it's so large, I mean, it won't it won't really hold anywhere or really make sense. Sorry, focus. So that is going to be my biggest complaint. Now, I like that they included it. It's fairly short, though, so you're not going to get a whole range of motion or, you know, do distance or wrap around your opponent a couple of times like he does to Luke Skywalker. But it's there. It's just kind of funky and big. But looking at the figure itself, I really like. One thing that I'm a little disappointed in is the width of the helmet. I feel like the width of the helmet should be a little bit wider. But it does really look good, so I don't want to take away from the fact that, you know, whoever had designed it, sculpted it and everything, and, you know, did the paint apps on there, I don't want to take away from what they did, because it is fantastic. I mean, look at all the weathering, all that silver that's showing through on the paint. You even got that dent up there, but it just looks so good. I mean, look at the back right there as well, some nice silver paint in there, and then the silver paint because the green, the silver showing because the green paint of the actual helmet, you know, would be coming off, so it's really cool. The viewfinder does drop down, and it looks like you can actually like look through it, so that is really cool. Just really nice. Looking at the weathering here, and then again, because this is a rubber overlay on top of the figure, so that's not like hard plastic. So I know it makes it a little bit trickier when in terms of paint and stuff, but you know, it's applied nicely. I have no complaints. We get a lot of nice weathering pattern going on in there. Same with these shoulder pads. You know, we get that silver paint on there over the yellow. Looking throughout the forearms and everything. Nice little silver paint. Yeah, the weathering that they did is just really nice. The knee pads there. Check out those little missiles, those little rockets there on the side. Just really cool, and it looks like he's got, you know, extra weapon storage there to reload and stuff. But looking at his feet, what's up with the squared out toes, man? I don't know what's going on with the feet. I think they're a little small, so I think that's a little bit of a problem. But overall, the figure does look damn good. So let's look at his articulation now. Okay, so Boba Fett's articulation, it's good. It's not like the greatest ever, but it's really good. So he can look down. As you can see there, he can look up a little bit. We get the neck where the neck is independent on its own, and then the head is on a ball joint, so you can get all kinds of crazy pivot going on in there, full rotation of course, and that's actually independent of the neck itself, so you can kind of line that neck back up, hold it in place, and move that head around. The arms, you can get the arms to go up that high. The shoulder pad is rubber material, so it really moves with it as far as the entire upper torso is, so that is really cool. If you want to get a rotation, you just kind of have to work around there, but you can get the rotation. This gets a little bit funky because we have a single jointed elbow, but we get multiple swivels. So because of the design of the suit, you have the sleeve that ends here, and because they want to be faithful to it and have that sleeve, you actually get a swivel at that sleeve, and then right here at the elbow you get another swivel, and then it's only single jointed, but that single joint gets you just over 90 degrees. So I don't really have any big complaints about that, because they do these nice deep cuts. But I've noticed that with Star Wars Black Series, lots and lots and lots of single joints. But, you know, some people didn't mind it because, you know, you do get a fair amount of bend going on in there. So the torso is actually on a rocker, a ball joint rocker. So he can tilt to his left that much. He can tilt to his right that much. He can tilt back a little bit, not a whole lot. He can come forward very little, so there's still no motion in there, but at least we get some, whereas I believe the old Black Series didn't actually have any torso articulation. And then you get a swivel at that diaphragm joint there as well. There is no waist swivel at all, so you have to use that diaphragm joint. The legs, he can do the splits that wide. He can kick forward that high, which is a fair amount, I guess. It's not too bad. You do have an upper thigh cut in there. You get a single jointed knee, so you get that much bend at the knee, but you also get a swivel at the knee. And the knee pad is part of the upper leg, so it doesn't move with that lower leg. You have a foot that hinges all the way down like so. You get tiny hinge up, barely anything. Ankle pivot pegals at the bottom of the feet, closer to his toes. So good articulation. Again, the figure looks really good. The rubber torso is a nice touch because you can get some movement in the torso. But overall, it's just the figure looks good. Some improvement with the articulation, I believe. But again, I haven't opened mine to really see kind of what the big differences that they made. I know from looking at the side-by-sides here and kind of what they did, definitely looks like the older one had a little bit of a wider helmet, and I don't know, to me, I think it actually looks a little bit better. Now, the helmet's details are much better on the new one. I just like, again, the width of the old one. And then, like the sleeves, so that double sleeve type thing, we didn't get that on this one, it looks like. And then just kind of how the belt looks with the pouches and things like this. The belt is a floating piece, but it is not something that is removable. But it can kind of move around with the figure. That one, you know, was pretty stagnant and didn't move or anything like that. Yeah, and then it looks like the older Boba Fett has slightly bigger feet, which, again, I think would help stabilize it a little bit better compared to the little feet of this one. So that's kind of the best that I could do with, in terms of the comparison. You know, the weathering is going to be a little bit different between all the different releases of the Boba Fetts. You know, looking at these three, the weathering of the helmet is different on each and every one. One thing I think the older ones did a little bit better is, you know, the dent that is up there. You get more of that silver paint that's actually applied to that dent than you do on this one. The old ones have yellow lines, whereas this one has orange lines going on in the helmet. So it's just kind of there, and it doesn't look like the viewfinder is actually articulated on the old ones. It looks like it's kind of cut into the sculpt, and I could be wrong there, but at least on this one, it's articulated, so you can actually put it to use, which is cool. So depending on what you're trying to do with the shot or the display that you're going for, you can actually work that because it is functioning. So that is pretty cool. One thing I noticed now that I'm looking at it is this figure does not come with the hand pistol or blaster. He only comes with his rifle, you know, type, and then the one that's cut in half, of course. So those are kind of the major differences there. You guys let me know down in the comments below anything that you may notice that I might be missing out, since I don't actually have these ones out of package. Forgot to go over the wrist articulation. So this one, the forearm actually has a swivel in there, independent to the one on the elbow. Wrist swivels and it hinges on the left. On the right, we get a vertical hinge like the roll of the dice motion, and then again the forearm has its own swivel. You know, I didn't really talk about this, you know, on the close-up, but the tassel looks good. It is glued on there. It's not going anywhere, so it's not like it's going to fall off or anything like that. And then looking at his arm, like some of these hoses and rope or whatever, I guess it'd be hoses that are going into the forearm, the gauntlet piece there, they rotate with the upper sleeve, so that is not a problem. Bending the elbow is not an issue at all. It is enough length and everything for it to work quite nicely. Okay, so for some side-by-side comparisons, we have the Bo-Katan, the Boba Fett, and the Mandalorian figure. Now, seeing all three, or maybe just Boba Fett and the Mandalorian Din Djarin side-by-side, we see some big differences in kind of the proportions of the figures. So it's kind of hard to say, you know, kind of put my thoughts into that. So the helmet is much, much, much larger on the Boba Fett compared to the Mandalorian Din Djarin. His legs come up quite a bit higher than Boba Fett. So it's just one of those things. I guess, you know, different people will have kind of the different proportions. But it looks a little odd seeing them right next to each other, because it's almost like on the Mandalorian that the legs seem almost too long, too tall, in comparison to his whole body when looking next to Boba Fett. And I don't think that's something that I ever really would have noticed before if they were not side by side. So there's a big key difference there between how they look overall. Now, I cannot wait, and you know Hasbro is going to do this. They will release a Boba Fett from The Mandalorian Season 2. Will we get two different ones? You know, the one where he has like the black cloak, robes on, and then has some of the armor with it, and then, well, I guess actually at the end he had it all painted and he had it with there. Would we get an unmasked or unhelmeted version before he got his armor back? I would like to see both of those versions. I think that'd be really cool. But for now, solid Boba Fett update to what has been released before, because overall aesthetically, you know, they made a lot of improvements on those different things. Okay, so a quick side-by-side comparison. Here we have the Star Wars Select Disney Store exclusive Boba Fett compared to the newly released one. So as awesome as the weathering looks on the Black Series, on like the dings and stuff on within the armor, looking at the overall look, you know, we get this wash over the Star Wars Select. Now, I know Selects tend to have kind of that textured look to it where they add in things like that. So the Black Series has just a very clean look, which is not something that I necessarily mind. It's just a super light color, that gray that they use. And I get that it's pretty accurate. I think maybe a little bit darker would have really made a big difference, but the 6-inch scale versus the 7-inch scale is a huge difference. You know, the Star Wars Select had a super wide helmet, which was probably too wide, but I would have liked to see the Boba Fett one go a little bit wider. And now that I'm looking again at the Star Wars Select Boba Fett, one thing that you notice on the jetpack is the colors of it. So maybe this is why I didn't really notice it in the movies, because they just weren't that bright in the movie, perhaps, because the Star Wars Select, it uses an extremely dark blue color and some red in there with some yellow, but it's much more dull and darker compared to the Black Series. So just a little bit of a comparison there. Both solid figures, just very different types of figures. So you know, Select figures would never really work with 6-inch scale, things like that. But it is a nice collector piece, so they kind of work well together. If you're a Boba Fett fan, you should have both. Okay, so my final thoughts. You know, there's no weapon storage on Boba Fett. Now, I don't think that's going to be because of the figure, just because of the kind of the suit and the design on how that works. It's nice to have a Boba Fett figure out of the package. For me, because I'm just not a very big Star Wars collector, I just don't have a whole lot of Star Wars figures out of the package. However, I am getting some Mandalorians here and there. I'll probably stick to live action as opposed to some of the animated series and things like that. But I do like it. You know, it was a little tricky getting his finger into the trigger, which I did not show that on camera earlier. My apologies. The grapple hook design for his arm doesn't stay on there, so I think it's a little tricky. It's a nice addition, sure, but you know, it's definitely one that's kind of, you got to kind of play around with and work with to try to get it to make sense. But I'm pleased with it overall. I like the way he looks compared to bo-katan and to the Mandalorian Din Djarin. I think it's a nice addition. You know, it is part of the Return of the Jedi line, but I myself would be much more excited for a Mandalorian version from the Disney Plus TV series for that to release. But you guys let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts on this figure are. Were you able to get a hold of one? Did your Amazon pre-order ship, or whoever else may have gotten it? Or did you pick it up at Target like I did? Ordered it, you know, late online for store pickup, and luckily they fulfilled my order. But you guys let me know down in the comments below all your thoughts on this figure. If you guys liked the video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching.